Good morning. When I was in college, there was a lot. It was after all of the '60s stuff, of course, but there was still a lot of peace and love and all those kind of conversations, and there was a lot of talk about Jesus is love and God is love and love and love and love and love and love. And I was sitting there one time thinking about it. I said, "Have you ever read the Old Testament?" And I think it's great that we're teaching what we're teaching now, because life is not all about the soft and squishy things. And as a matter of fact, in order to get prepared today to teach on Genesis, the teachers typically come up and pray for each other, and Tom did that. And then right before we went live, it was decided that we needed to bring in Candy to pray for me also, to make sure that we kind of stay on message. So chapter 15, verses 1 through 6. They only gave me 6 verses because of how long-winded I am, but I think I've got an hour and a half, so we'll get through it. So as chapter 15 begins, we find our protagonist, Abram, pouting. He has obviously been doing some estate planning, working on who is going to get all of his stuff, wondering what his actual legacy will be. Despite the fact that he is at the pinnacle of success, Abram remains unfulfilled. God appears to Abram and says, "I will be your shield, your shelter, your source of comfort. Your reward will be very great." Abram, caught up in the material world, reacts by saying, "I don't need more things. I have things, more than I can spend, even in my long lifetime. But I have no heir. What will my legacy be? All my stuff is going to Eliezer of Damascus, for crying out loud." God was not talking about things, of course. God knew Abram's heart before Abram did. God knew what was needed. God knew what was required. "Oh, Abram, not more stuff. You're my son. I plan to give you the thing you desire and need above all else." God takes him outside and says, "You see the stars? Look at the stars. Number them if you can. So shall your offspring be." Now, Abram was a smart guy, but he didn't know much about stars. He didn't know about galaxies and nebulas. He saw a huge volume, but beyond the volume that he could see was even more that he could not see. Number them if you can. With all the technology we have today, we cannot number them. We have to extrapolate on the scale of the observable universe by using extremely complicated formulas. We know the numbers are large, even larger than the spread in yesterday's UT-OU game. As best we can determine today, there are at least 1 trillion galaxies. 1 trillion galaxies. And in each galaxy, on average, there's about 200 billion stars. A billion is 1,000 million. So I like to say 200,000 million trillion stars. That's a lot of stars. That's a lot of volume. Abram. All of that is what lies ahead. Rest assured, your legacy will be great. But Abram, more important than all of that, I want you. I, the creator of all things, want to be in personal relationship with you. Therefore, I'm going to make a covenant with you and all your descendants that no matter what, I will be here for you. You can, at all times, rely on me, and I'm going to work out the salvation and the reconciliation of all humanity through you. What was Abram's response? Filled with faith, he turns away from the stars, falls to his knees, and believes that God's covenant is truth. And God counted it to him as righteousness. There are thousands of lessons in these 6 verses. Millions of people have been discussing and teaching this story for thousands of years. Given that I have a finite amount of time, I'm asking you to please remember 3 things. First, capacity. Next time you go outside and you look up at the stars and feel insignificant, remember this. The scale of the universe, as massive as it is nothing. It is literally a trifle compared to the love that God has for us. Remember, if you reach into God's vast resource of love and take all that you want, as much as you can possibly consume, there will still be just as much available. Number 2, legacy. I had an eternal moment yesterday. I was sitting outside on some metal lawn furniture at Jackie's house holding my grandson. Not just any lawn furniture. This lawn furniture had belonged to my grandparents. After they died, my parents had it for many years, and then they gave it to us. Diane recently had it completely restored. It is 75 years old, and it looks brand new. I was holding my grandson, and I admit I was singing Cat Stevens, and thinking how it would be impossible for me to explain to him how much I love him. I am a flawed and fallen man. If I have this much love for this small person, can you imagine the amount of love that God has for each of us? How desperate God is to be in relationship with us. Desperate enough to sacrifice his only begotten Son so that for all eternity, he can be in relationship with us. Here is my legacy. One day, about 60 years from now, my grandson will sit on that same lawn furniture with his granddaughter. And that little girl, without knowing that 7 generations of Heinies and Modisets and Harkins and Abears will have rested on those chairs looked at the stars, contemplated the mysteries of the heavens, and yet know that out of all those stars, God chose to be in relationship with her. Our legacy, as Abraham came to understand in this moment, is eternal relationship with God. Third and final point, confidence. Here's the lesson I want my children to hear. The lesson I would want my grandson to hear. Out of all these galaxies and stars and nebulas, you know what's important to God? You. You are. Since before the foundation of the earth was made, God knew you and wanted to be in relationship with you. God says, I'm putting all of this, Abram, at your disposal. I'm entering into a covenant with you, Helen, Jim, Tom. I'm going to do more than give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to fulfill you. Regardless of your age, your strength, or your infirmity, I'm going to be here to bolster you. You see these stars? These are just a glimmer of my capacity and capability. My resources are infinite. They are more than those stars. 200,000 million trillion just north of the national debt. Please be confident in God's ability to do whatever needs to be done. You can go out there and do great things. Help your spouse. Help your child. Serve at church. Stand up against the preposterous. Look ignorance in the face and lovingly call it out for what it is. Capacity, legacy, confidence. Amen.